You know that weird feeling when you notice someone who is not the smartest in the room, not the hardest worker, not even the nicest person, yet somehow they get the attention, the influence, the promotion, the control, while people like you who actually think deeply keep getting sidelined. If you have ever looked at a situation and thought, how on earth is this the person in charge? You are not crazy. You are just bumping into an invisible set of rules most people never get taught. The game of power is not fair, it is not obvious, and it is definitely not designed to reward the most honest or the most kind. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He watched rulers rise and fall. He watched alliances form and collapse, and he realized something harsh but true. The world does not run on how things should be. It runs on how people actually are, and people are driven by fear, desire, ego, and insecurity far more than they are driven by logic and morality. Now, here is the interesting part. Most people only know the cartoon version of Machiavelli. They think it is all about being ruthless, manipulative, and cold. That is the surface level. That is how amateurs try to use power, and it usually backfires on them. The real value in Machiavelli is much more subtle and much more useful. It is about understanding human nature so well that you can move through the world without constantly getting played. What I want to walk you through now are 5 laws of power that only the smartest people actually use, not because they are hidden in some ancient secret text, but because they require a level of self-awareness and emotional control that most people never develop. If you really absorb these and you start practicing them intentionally, you will notice tiny shifts at first, then bigger ones. People treat you differently. Your opinion carries more weight. You stop feeling like life is just happening to you and start feeling like you have your hands on the steering wheel. So let us start with the first one, because if you miss this, everything else becomes 10 times harder. The first law is this: perception beats reality, unless you understand both. Machiavelli watched leaders who did the right thing, but looked weak and they lost power. He also watched leaders who were corrupt, but mastered appearances and they held on longer than anyone expected. That sounds unfair, but think about your own life, in your workplace, in your family, in your friend group. Decisions are not made based on pure facts. They are made based on how those facts are seen, felt, and framed. Most people make one of 2 mistakes here. They either say, I hate fake people, I am just going to be real and not care what anyone thinks. Or they go the other way and say, I will just try to look good, talk in buzzwords, pretend to be confident, and hope that works. Both paths are weak. The rare smart approach is this: you learn to care deeply about reality and also master perception. You make yourself actually competent, actually prepared, actually useful, and then you learn how to signal that in a way that human beings respond to. Let me make this practical. Imagine you are in a meeting at work or in a classroom setting or even a group chat planning something. You know a lot about the topic, but you stay quiet, you mumble, or you speak last when everyone else has already shaped the direction. In your head, you are thinking they should just see that my idea is better. But what people actually see is someone who does not seem very sure of themselves. The perception is weak, so the reality never gets a chance. Now imagine the same situation, but you use this law. Before the meeting, you prepare 2 or 3 sharp points, not 10, 2 or 3. You decide when you will speak and you go early, not last. You sit upright. You look at the person who has the most influence in the room and you speak clearly with fewer words than you want to use. You do not ramble. You leave a tiny bit unsaid, so people ask follow-up questions. Suddenly the perception shifts. You look like a person who knows what they are talking about. People start coming to you later asking, hey, what do you think about this? Same brain, Same reality, different perception. And that difference is power. So ask yourself in your life, right now, where is there a gap between how capable you actually are and how capable you look from the outside? That gap is silently costing you control, and you do not fix it by becoming fake. You fix it by aligning your outer signals with your inner strength. Let us move to the second law, which is uncomfortable but incredibly freeing when you really get it. The second law of power, control, the levers, not the surface. Machiavelli noticed that the people who looked like they were in charge were not always the ones truly in control. Sometimes it was the advisor, the person who controlled access, the one who managed information, the one who shaped what the ruler saw or did not see. In modern life, the levers are not thrones and armies. The levers are things like information, timing, relationships and systems, smart people. Stop obsessing over titles and start asking what actually moves things here. Think about school, work, or even your family. There is always a visible structure and a hidden one. The visible structure is the official hierarchy, the job titles, the family roles. The hidden structure is who people go to when they need help. Who knows what is really happening? Who controls the shared calendar? Who sets the agenda? Who filters what gets seen? If you are always fighting for the surface spot, the title, the public praise, you often end up being the one everyone leans on and pushes around. You are the visible hero, but you are also the one with the least freedom. If you learn to quietly connect with the people who control the levers and eventually become one of them, yourself, you suddenly have a very different kind of power. Let us make this concrete. Say you are in a company. Everyone is chasing promotions, trying to impress the boss. You notice that. There is a project manager who handles the schedule and assigns work, or maybe there is a senior assistant who runs the calendar for your manager. These people might not have the highest titles, but the boss trusts them. They decide who gets time, who gets assigned a visible projects, who gets introduced to whom. If you are smart, you do not ignore them. You build real relationships with them. You ask what makes their job easier. You become known as the one person who always delivers when they give you something. You understand their priorities. Over time, they start sliding opportunities your way without you begging for it. Others think, wow, you are so lucky, but you are not lucky. You just learn to connect with the lever. This applies outside of work, too. On social media, the lever might be the algorithm. Instead of complaining about it, you learn what it rewards. In your friend group, the lever might be the person who organizes events. In your family, the lever might be the one who controls money or who everyone goes to for emotional advice. Pause for a second and scan your life. Where are the hidden levers? Who sets the tone? Who filters information? Who decides what gets attention? If you start paying attention to that and positioning yourself closer to those levers, you gain influence even before your outer status changes. Now, for the third law, this one is more internal, but it shows up in very practical ways. The third law of power: never be trapped with only one way out. Machiavelli warned rulers to always have options. The moment a leader depended entirely on one ally, one source of income, one method of control, they became vulnerable. All someone had to do was cut off that one source and the ruler was finished. In your life, this shows up as dependency. If your entire emotional stability depends on one person, they have power over you. If your entire career depends on one job, one skill, or one manager liking you, you're not in control. If all your self-esteem is tied to one platform, one number, one identity, you are constantly at risk. This does not mean you have to be cold, detached, or paranoid. It means you quietly build options in the background, so you are never fully at the mercy of one thing. For example, maybe right now your job is your only source of income. That is normal. But the Machiavellian mindset would ask, what? Can I start learning or building on the side that gives me another path if this job disappears? It might be a skill, a side project, a relationship with people in other companies. You do not need to quit your job and become some dramatic lone wolf. You just stop being completely exposed emotionally. If you cling to one person to feel like you matter, you will tolerate disrespect, unpredictability, and manipulation. You will say yes when you want to say no because deep down you are terrified of losing them. Power begins when you realize I can care deeply about someone and still know that I will survive without them. Then your yes actually means yes instead of please. Do not leave me. Even socially, think about your identity. Are you the funny one, the smart one, the quiet one, the responsible one? That can become a trap if you feel forced to always be that way. Having more than one way of showing up, more than one circle where you are seen differently gives you freedom. If one environment turns toxic, you are not stuck because you have other places where your value is recognized. Take a moment and ask yourself, where in my life do I feel like if this thing goes away, I am done? That is where you need to slowly and quietly build options. You do not have to announce it. You just begin a course, a new connection, a backup plan, a skill, even just saving a bit of money. Each option you create reduces your desperation, and the less desperate you are, the more power you have. Let us move to the fourth law, which is one of my favorites and also one of the most misunderstood. The fourth law of power. Choose what you reveal and what you leave in the dark. Machiavelli understood that mystery is a tool. If people think they know everything about you, they stop being curious. If they know nothing about you, they do not trust you. The sweet spot is controlled transparency. You show enough to build connection and credibility, but you do not dump your entire inner world on every person you meet. Most people do the opposite. They overshare with people who have not earned it and hide from the people who actually care, or they try so hard to be mysterious that they just come off as cold, arrogant, or fake. Intelligent power is intentional about what you share. At work, for example, you might be open about your goals, your interests, and your strengths. People know what you want and what you are good at so they can support or at least understand you. But you do not share every doubt, every frustration, and every conflict going on in your head with colleagues who could easily use that against you. In friendships, you might be emotionally honest, but you do not give your deepest secrets to someone who has not shown consistency or respect. Over time, you test people with smaller truths first. You see how they handle them. Do they gossip? Do they dismiss your feelings? Do they twist your words? If they show they are careless with the small things, you do not hand them the big ones. Online, you might share certain parts of your life or personality, but you keep your long-term plans, your exact vulnerabilities, and your financial details out of public view. You do not become paranoid. You become selective. Here is why this matters for power. When you share everything, other people gain information they can use to control you. They know exactly which buttons to push. They know which fears to trigger, which insecurities to poke. On the other hand, when you never share anything, people cannot connect to you and you cannot build alliances. You become isolated. Controlled transparency means you decide the story people have about you. You feed them the key truths you want them to know, your values, your boundaries, your strengths, your basic context. Then you leave them with unanswered questions, not in a manipulative, dramatic way, but simply because you are not performing your entire life for other people. Someone might think, I know this person is solid, reliable, and sharp, but I feel there is more going on under the surface. That is a powerful perception to create. It makes people respect you more, pay more attention when you speak and hesitate before crossing you. You can even practice this. In small ways, answer questions honestly, but shorten your answers by one sentence. Let people ask for more if they are truly interested. When you talk about your goals, share what you are working on now, but keep your long-term strategy to yourself. Over time, you will notice you feel less exposed and more centered. All right, let us go to the fifth law, which is probably the hardest emotionally, but the one that changes everything once it really sinks in. The fifth law of power: respect beats being liked, and self-respect beats both. Machiavelli famously said, "It is safer for a ruler to be feared than loved if they cannot be both." People take that and run in the worst direction possible. They think power means bullying, intimidating, or scaring people into submission. That is lazy. It is not even smart in modern life. Trying to make people fear you backfires. They avoid you. They secretly undermine you. They celebrate your failures. Fear is unstable. The real insight hidden underneath that quote is this: when people only like you but do not respect you, they will step over you the moment it is convenient. When people respect you, they think twice before crossing you, even if they do not always like you. The deepest layer, though, is that none of this matters if you do not respect yourself. And how do you build that kind of respect in real life? Not through acting tough or pretending you do not care. You build it by consistently enforcing your own boundaries and by choosing integrity over approval when it actually costs you something. For example, imagine you are in a group where everyone is laughing at someone who is not there. You know it feels wrong, but you also want to fit in. If you join in just to be liked, you might win some shallow social points, but your self-respect takes a hit. You might even feel that small, gross feeling. Later, over time, those small compromises add up and you stop trusting yourself. On the other hand, maybe you do not make a big dramatic speech, but you quietly refuse to participate. You change the subject, or you say, "Honestly, this feels a little off." That might make a couple of people roll their eyes. You might lose a bit of short-term likability, but something important happens inside you. You prove to yourself that you are not for sale. That inner proof is power, because once you have it, you stop being so desperate for everyone to like you. You would rather lose fake support than lose yourself. And funny enough, over time, the right people will respect the fact that you are not easily swayed. In relationships, this looks like being willing to walk away from a situation where you are consistently disrespected, even if you still care about the person. Not in a dramatic storm out, but in a firm, quiet decision. When you show yourself that you will not stay somewhere that crushes your self-worth, your entire energy changes. You move differently. People sense that you are not easily controlled by guilt or fear of abandonment. At work, it might show up as saying no to a request that violates your values or sabotages your well-being. It might cost you short-term favor with a manager, but it reinforces an identity where you are not just a tool to be used. It also sends a signal to others that you are not the person they can dump everything on without consequence. Here is the twist. When you start living like this, you will not be universally liked. Some people will find you intimidating, stubborn, or difficult. That is fine. The goal is not to be universally liked. The goal is to be deeply respected by yourself first, and then by a smaller group of people whose opinions actually matter. So let us zoom out for a moment and connect all these laws, because they feed into each other. Perception and reality levers instead of surfaces. Options instead of traps. Controlled transparency instead of oversharing or hiding. Respect over being liked. Put together, these create a different posture in life, and you become someone who knows they are not perfect, but is actively learning and improving. You stop expecting the world to reward you just for being good, and you stop trying to win by copying the coldest, most ruthless people around you. Instead, you learn the rules of power so you can play the game on your own terms. If you feel like people have underestimated you for a long time, this is your invitation to quietly change. That tiny behavior shifts repeated are more powerful than one big dramatic moment. Start by picking just one law to practice this week. Maybe you decide to work on perception. You show up slightly earlier. You speak a little more clearly. You cut out one apologetic phrase. You overuse. You stop saying sorry every 5 minutes. You look people in the eye for 1 extra second before looking away. Or you focus on the lever. Law. You map out who actually influences what in your environment. You send one thoughtful message to someone who sets the agenda instead of chasing the person with the highest title. Or you work on the option law. You sign up for a course. You start reading about a new skill. You set aside a tiny amount of money as a freedom fund, even if it is very small at first. Or you practice controlled transparency. You answer questions honestly, but stop yourself from oversharing when you feel that familiar urge to spill everything, just to feel temporarily closer to someone. Or you take a small stand for your self-respect. You say no once where you would have said yes in the past just to avoid discomfort. You do something kind for yourself, not as a reward, but as a baseline. The point is, you do not have to become some extreme version of Machiavelli to benefit from his insights. The smartest people take what is useful and leave what is toxic. They use this knowledge to protect themselves, to build better alliances, and to create lives that are more stable and less dependent on the moods and whims of others. And look, if you feel like you have messed this up in the past, maybe you stayed too long in a bad situation. Maybe you let people walk all over you. Maybe you ignored your own instincts just to be liked. You are not alone. Most people have done that often for years. You are not broken. You are just playing a game without the rulebook. Now you have a bit more of the rulebook. You understand that how you appear matters. You understand that real control is in the levers, not the labels. You understand that options equal power. You understand that you can choose what to reveal and what to keep for yourself. And you understand that self-respect is the foundation on which any lasting power is built. The question is not whether these laws are true. You can look around your life and see them everywhere if you really start paying attention. The question is whether you are going to keep living on autopilot or whether you are willing to experiment with a new way of moving. You do not have to become a different person overnight, just a slightly more aware, slightly more deliberate version of yourself, one choice at a time. Because the truth about control is this: the moment you stop handing out pieces of yourself for free, the moment you stop begging to be chosen, the moment you start acting from self-respect instead of desperation, you have already stepped into a different kind of power. Even if nobody else notices it yet, they